So then we are back with the modern understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services that we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Tzayelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per Yeshayahu the prophet. Then we find a layer of understanding related with the spring feast, autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. And while we studying the original documents, then we find ourselves also included as Gentiles in the plan of the time of the end. So then during this restoration period, you find the nations then lining up themselves for the system of the dragon. The system of the dragon is obviously related with a dual understanding, because you find then the physical geographical areas where you find then the products of the dragon, for instance, then trade, the trade of the end, and the specific trading posts in this earth. So then, not only this, but then G20 is going to be in September in the Soviet Union, where then the banking of the BRICS must be then launched, and those nations then included with this plan must become then at some point virtual. Not only this, but then yesterday, there was then an article related with a Cuban freighter transporting sugar route then Cuba, North Korea with weapons. Then these indicates while then they tried to send these weapons of war through the Panama Canal, they were caught, and then the crew had a mutiny, and then the captain tried suicide, and then indicating obviously the relationship of North Korea and China is a friendly skirmish used as a decoy. Not only this, but then you find obviously through history, you find in the 60s then Che Guevara went to DRC and they wanted a deal with DRC, and then these must be continued, as we find in this very morning, there was an article on a paper related with the DRC revolt. Obviously, we find then the Soviet Union very strong, doing its work on DRC, transporting then coltan and rare materials, where you find 80% of the deposits of coltan of the world is located in Africa, precisely in DRC. So then not only this, you find then the understanding of the time of the end and the dragon obviously trying to make these deposits of rare materials exclusive for the usage of the dragon. So then obviously those skirmishes in the past, where then many nations they came together and they talked regarding the North Korea skirmish with China, it was absolutely a joke. They were doing this consciously, because during this time you find then these great news related with the trying of going through of Panama Canal with specialized weaponry then from Cuba to North Korea. Cuba has a very strong relationship with the Soviet Union. Soviet Union has a very strong relationship with China. And the fact of having then Cubans involved with sugar and then trying to go through with the weapons going to North Korea absolutely indicates friendship. These places us then in a very predicament, because we were thinking other situations other than what was presented yesterday. Not only this, then we find ourselves involved with some sort of a training in the Pacific and trying to make friendships over there, and we are being used as a decoy, while then obviously exhausting even further our own economy. And then, as it was explained before, Daniel the prophet mentioned regarding the trade of the end, or then the restoration period, where nations should retrieve and rebuild, because there are designers, and this time there is no way of going around. When the Creator has His hands on the situation, there is no way of going around but then lining up ourselves with it. And we are at the moment, because of this new exercise in the Pacific, and then joining up with other militaries, we are in the very center of the danger point. We should rethink our strategies, because these days we have found the North Koreans and then the Chinese, they were having friendship skirmishes. You couldn't have any other resolution of the problem if these weapons would not find themselves then caught in the midst of Panama Canal. Then you would have to have another type of reason to believe then their skirmishes were real, but they were not. They were friendly. So we were decoyed along with UN and the other countries. They were thinking, oh, it was for real. No, it was not for real. Yesterday gave you the answer. And then if these became a problem, understandably, the Soviets have very important high technological weapons, and some of them are obviously from stealth areas of the military, where then last year there were Soviet submarines around the world, and one of them went to the Gulf of Mexico undetected. It shows very strongly they have very important high technological equipment, and these high technological equipment requires coltan. That's why then DRC is revolting. So then you can understand it's pushing forward for the legalization and also the organization of the mines then in DRC, so then China and the Soviet Union can get best of the raw materials. Not only this, but where are we at with the submarine warfare? So it's showing from every direction, submarine warfare. Then you find friendship of North Korea and China. Obviously, they are from the same lineage. But then we find our economy very weak. That's where we have our problem. It's no longer trying to control then the situation around the world in the Asian market, but then taking care of our own economy. The problem is then the computerized virtual monetary system is already uploaded. These are what we are having problems with. If they were only using standard centralized banking, then it wouldn't be a big problem, but they have another system making it virtual. And this is in line with then what Daniel had said regarding then the trade of the end, regarding then the knowledge, the high knowledge, and the absolutely imperative control of the dragon. The dragon must control without centralized bank. Centralized banking gives people then the luxury of control. The dragon can't have others' control. When you find in the time of deceit, for 1,000 years, people were deceived, 100% in the hands of the devil. There is no longer devil. Devil no longer exists. We are only having these thinkings of devil because of the remnants from the time of the 1,000 years of deceit. After 09, remove devil from your vocabulary. It is dragon, precision, time of the end, trade of the end. And China leads the market. The only solution for our country is retrieving and rebuilding our country, rebuilding our economy, parking our ships, parking our submarines, take care of the home first, make sure our economy becomes strong again, and then being partners in the near future. And let the Soviet Union and the Chinese deal with the rest of the world. Obviously then, link up the United Nations with them and let them take care of it. This nation must recuperate its economy. Not only this, you find in the great country of Australia, also going on lots of situations. The new Prime Minister, he doesn't know yet if he's doing campaigning or then governing, or both of them at the same time. He's already abolished then the carbon tax. He's trying to make these moves so then when comes the time of elections, then he might be re-elected. But the situation is not the carbon tax in causing a hold in their economy. He's then establishing the Dragon Mart on Australia and becoming then the trading post of the South Pacific. This truly is the objective. That's the only chance for Tony then become a Prime Minister. His only chance is Dragon Mart. Going then to Mexico, finding out the details, get then the blueprints of the project. take a tour over there at the Dragon Mart in Cancun, and then have it on Australia. Then it improves the economy. Then the holes caused by this carbon tax junk, then it is replaced with logistics. It's very solid because the Messiah spoke in the future. Then the freighters of the earth, he was explaining the authority after the giving of the stick of authority back to the Ishmaelites, and they are using it because they have the most crude. No crude, no freight. Please stay tuned, much more coming up.